This video is not about the Emerson Commander per se. Emerson Commander is a cast member in this, or a family member in this video. I've thought about making a royal family folder collection video. And by royal family, I mean, when I first started getting serious about collecting knives, there was a royal triumvirate. You had to have a Sebenza, an XM from Hinderer, and a Stryder. And those were the three top hard-use, expensive, small batch production knives that every collector sort of strove to have. I'm not sure what the past tense to strive is. And I got those, and they're lovely parts of my collection, but I wanted to make a video that talked about knives that shared that same spirit, because to me, that royal triumvirate, that circle has expanded, and there are other knives that fit in there. So as you can see, I think the Emerson Commander fits in there. This is my Emerson Commander from 2000, and it is the knife that really got my attention from this brand. They didn't have too many knives out when this came out. And this was the one that caught my eye because of that beautiful recurve. I had just gotten into Filipino martial arts at that time, and a lot of the swords and blades in Filipino martial arts have those recurved blades, and this just sort of caught my eye. Little did I know at the time that Ernest Emerson was an adept at that style of knife use, and that's probably where a lot of inspiration for this blade came from. And then I learned about this, the Wave for out-of-pocket deployment, and I knew that it had to be mine. I paid $200 for this in 1999 when I did not have $200 to spend on anything, let alone a knife. Bought it from Knife Center, not realizing that they weren't making them yet and that it was a pre-order. Knife Center has a way of doing that, and they've straightened that out recently, where they're more transparent about when you're going to get your knife. But I ordered it thinking it was going to come the next day, like everything else did on the internet at that time, at least as far as I knew, because all I had ever bought was a computer. It showed up the next day. And then I forgot about it. And then about a year later, it showed up on my desk at work. And yeah, so this is definitely a high-ranking member of the folding royal family. Next, in a similar vein, is the, in terms of my attraction to it, is the ZT-0200, designed by Ken Onion. Love the recurve. Again, the recurve really caught my eye, that beautiful thumb ramp. The design of this, the ergonomics of this just knocked me out when I first saw it. And then you turn it on its side and you see it's got a Coke bottle profile here, or a cross section. They hollowed out those giant liners. They put on standoffs, sort of a typical ZT, not ZT, but Kershaw clip they were using here. And amazing milling in this G10. This was a gift from my brother. This was a part of his collection. And I was visiting him once, and I asked him if I could see it. He brought it out and gave it to me for Christmas. Christmas was right around the corner. And love it. I carry it very rarely. I had to sand down the pocket clip to make it pocketable. Carry it very rarely, but when I do, it makes me think of my brother, and it makes me think of what a classic ZT this is. And I know a lot of people think ZT has lost their compass. I just think that they were trying things out, you know, and they've come back to this sort of more hardcore build, I think, recently with the 308. So that's a part of the royal family. Next up, Hinderer XM-24. This is the 24. The 18 counts also. I just like this because it's bigger. The XM series just blew me away when I first saw them. It took me a long time to save up to get my first one, which was an XM-18. Bowie sold that one a number of years ago to get other Hinderer knives. I love the shape of this Wharncliffe. I think they have the best looking Wharncliffe in the industry. And not for nothing, I do have the 18 Wharncliffe no choil, And even though I like the extended cutting edge, I actually think that this knife looks better with a choil. And you know how important looks are to me. After all, I am admittedly superficial when it comes to knives, and I just love the way this looks. But I also love the way it feels, and it's great in hand. This is M390. I'm not sure when they're going to come back around to making the XM-24 in Wharncliffe with the tri-way pivot. This is pre-tri-way pivot. I don't know what generation, maybe third generation, maybe someone out there knows. But this is very smooth. I've had a number of all of my Hinderers except for one are pre-tri-way pivot, bearings in the pivot, and this is the smoothest by far that I've ever had. Great, great, great knife. One of my favorites, absolute favorites, but I'm going to say that over and over, I'm sure. So definitely a high-ranking member of the Royal. These are all high rankers. I'll just stop right there with that. Next, SMF by Hinderer. This is the larger of the two. You have the SNG and the SMF. SMF has a nearly 4-inch blade, or on the nuts 4-inch blade, I guess. This one is hollow ground, and I bought this from Terrell Todd. You know him as Zelric42 on YouTube. Of the Todd brothers who design all of those great futuristic looking knives that come out through Bestech. This is the concealed carry model, which means in cross section you can see it's contoured. It's very thin. This the standard model is called the Lego model because it's blocky. If you can see, the full width of the knife is right about here in the handle. The Lego models just come straight up on both sides, so they're kind of boxy, if you will. And this feels great in hand. I love this. Now, it took me a long time to figure this out. I didn't figure it out. Randy Johnson from the Johnson Knife channel explained in a video that you can tell an SMF from an SNG from looking at it. The SMF has 3 screws here. The SNG has 2 screws because it's shorter and doesn't need that 3rd screw, I guess. One really, really great thing about the design of these knives, besides that choil and how you can get up there for your fine detailed work, is the fact that they mill the one side, the non-locking, non-titanium side, out of one piece of G10. So there's no back strap, or there's no back spacer, no standoffs. It is a solid handle up to this side. And so it makes it a very strong knife, the construction very strong. This is a special lock bar insert, or lock bar, you know what I'm talking about. This is a special one. This is a gray precision already on there when I bought it. These are also excellent in reverse grip. That jimping is really nice and really grips the hand. Oh, they look nice next to each other, don't they? Next, we have the Chris Reeve knives, classic, the 21 Sebenza in drop point. That edge is so awesome. This is one of the ones I dropped and broke the tip off, so I sent it to Jared at Neve's Knives, and he really hooked it up, gave me this beautiful edge. So it's really, really sharp, as this knife should be, because it's very thinly hollow ground, and it should be wicked sharp. For some reason, I could never get it adequately sharp, adequate to my taste. Jared free-handed it and just really made it a beautiful thing. And he took care of that point for me. Nothing worse than a broken tip. Also, these are black micarta inlays. And what's so great is that when you first get them, they look gray, just like they do on the edge here. And I was like, I thought I got black. And then after a couple of days of carrying it, it took on my personal filth signature, and it became black. That expression I love. It's not mine. It's Advanced Knife Bros, but I think it's brilliant in talking about how micarta patinas. It takes on your personal filth signature. Excellent in reverse grip. Not that you're going to find yourself using it, but I have to say, when you buy the Chris Reeve knife and you look at or at least it did in mine, when you look at the paperwork inside, he mentions, or the literature mentions, how this is going to be your best friend for daily carry for all these tasks, including protecting yourself. And I like that that was a consideration. Such a great design, just a classic. And this one, you know, they send you a birth card with it telling you when it was made. This one was made on Leap Day. That's February 29th of 2016. So I think it's kind of cool. This was made on a day that only comes every 4 years. So this is my Leap Day Sebenza, my one and only Chris Reeve knife. Next, in the royal family, the Spyderco Military. This is the knife that... why am I blocking? Why am I blocking? Well, this is the knife that... The head of Spyderco, you write it in the write it in the comments. You know that I'm just having a brain fart here. But the head of Spyderco said that Sal Glesser said that if he had to design a knife for his son to take into the military, it would be this. So it's a 4-inch blade. So right at 4 inches, it's a little bit over 4 inches blade. This one is S30V. You can get it in a variety of blade steels and handle materials, including fluted titanium, flat titanium, and other colors of G10 for different knife purveyor exclusives. It's got a titanium liner lock and is just a classic. I love this knife. My dad has one. Years ago, he asked me what he should get as a folding knife. I said, check out Spyderco. And this is what he ended up getting. And my brother has one just like it. So the three of us have these black militaries, and I love them. This is one of the few knives where the tip down scenario is acceptable in my book, because the rest of the knife is just so awesome that it doesn't bother me. But I was curious, why the hell don't they just make it so you put it here? But they wanted to keep this thing light because it's a large knife. And in doing so, there are no liners here on this G10. So you have metal underneath you. The liner basically comes like this and comes like this. So it's mostly G10 with a very thin liner. And the idea is that bringing the liner all the way to the back so that you could actually attach a clip back here would make it heavier. But in my book, it wouldn't make it that much heavier. I still wish that they would just kind of, relent and make it so that, or just put a little plate here, or whatever, inset it in that G10 so that those of us who can perseverate on such issues could satisfy ourselves by just putting the damn clip on this side. But not a deal breaker, because it is the Spyderco Military, part of the royal family. Let me move this down. Think of the timing, royal family. I don't mean to be too topical here. Okay, next is the other knife that I consider it acceptable to have tip down, and that is the beautiful SOCOM Elite by Microtech. This one is a 2012 build with that beautiful Tanto blade. I love this, one of my favorite Tanto blades, and I think it looks better than the one they're using right now on their knives. It's just so cool with that long swedge and this drop sort of area here, and I just think it's beautiful. This, as I've mentioned many times, is my road trip knife because it was my first glass breaking knife, and I don't know why they don't have this so that you can have it tip down, or tip up, but the way they have this clip built, this works really well in slanted pants like slacks. Really nestles in there instead of like riding like this. It sits very nicely. Such a great blade. This is S35VN, and it was my first S35VN blade ever. Bought it from a guy in 2013 who was building a house and needed to sell stuff off. I don't know why or how I remember that. There are many things that are way more important that I can't remember, but I do remember that detail. Got it on Blade Forums. Now, the next one is also a Microtech, and it's the first doubled up on this list, and it's because it's a very, very interesting collaboration with Greg Lightfoot. This is the LCC Lightfoot, what is it, Combat something? I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what that stands for. I've always loved this knife. The way it looks is it's just beautiful to me. It's sort of Warren-Cliffy, sort of clip pointy. Hard to describe this blade. I like where the tip is. in relation to the rest of the blade, right down the center line. This one in particular has this gnarly, whatchamacallit, serrations. This one was made in 2002. I love when they put the date on the blade. It's nice to know when it was made. S30V, back when S30V was considered a great steel. I mean, it's still considered a great steel, but people have moved on, I guess. Combat, what is this? The Lightfoot Combat something or other. But the cool thing about this, you probably have guessed at this point, there's his shark, Lightfoot shark. The cool thing about this is that it is a double action knife, meaning you could just be all chill with it and slow roll it open when you're around the sheeple. And then when you're around your knife friends, you just nudge the bolster like this, and the blade flies out. I love bolster automatics. This is the only one I've ever had, and I just think it's a cool concept because you hand this to someone who doesn't know, and they'll think it's just a regular knife. Maybe they'll even open it like that and not know what this is for. But then you say, there's another way to open it, figure it out, and they'll never guess. It's so cool. This one has this beautiful linen micarta, brown linen micarta handle, and has just sort of an older style build, as you can tell. This thing is going to be 20 years old soon. I was lucky to score that one on the secondary market also. Okay, 3 more knives in this here royal family, and we're going to go with the VSET by Les George. The Sebenza Killer. When this came out, everyone was like, oh, it's the Sebenza Killer, or Sebenza Killer? That was the title of all of the videos when this first came out. Someone's going to tell me what version this is. I know that the clip is not from the version that this one is. This came with a real wide spoonbill clip. The gentleman who owned this before me, who was in Singapore, sent this the way it is, but also sent that big spoon clip. And the spoon clip was the original. So tell me, I can never remember. Please tell me which version this is. It's got the gorgeous shaped blade looking like a rock eye. This is based on the rock eye. This is one of the first mid-tech knives out there, in that the parts were milled elsewhere and then finished and assembled by Les George in his shop. You've got the lock bar stabilizer, which I think is one of the ways to tell what version this is. And this is a detail you don't see on many knives at all, but the chamfering around the lock bar is so nice. It's such a nice touch. It's this whole handle is really nicely chamfered, very simple, very ergonomic, and man, I love this knife. So I looked high and low for one of these for a long time and finally lucked out with that. Beautiful edge on this too, by the way. All right, 2 more. The last one, or the second to last one, the penultimate knife in this here royal family is the absolutely ridiculous and lovely Medford Praetorian. I love this knife. I used to hate it. Hate the design of it. I mean, just think it was the most ridiculous thing. But it is great. I love it. I hate this thing. But I mean, now that I own it, I just straight up love it. Got the pyramid glass breaker. This model, I can't remember which model this is, but it's thin. It's got this clip, which I love, not that big wide one that's hollowed out in the middle, just with that simple MKT, Medford knife and tool. Beautiful titanium side. Love the color here. I got this from our good friend up in Vermont, Stu, from Stone and Steel, and it's very, very sharp. Now, something I never would have imagined until I got this in hand was how amazingly sharp and thin behind the edge these are, because this is a beefy blade stock here. One chunky blade stock, but it's hollow ground and it comes to such a fine edge. It's a great cutter, and that shoulder there helps it split stuff nicely too, gotta say. The front part of this Tanto is flat ground. Just a great knife from a very unique knife maker and unique knife company. They do a lot of big, compelling, awkward designs. I don't know how else to put it. Like the designs are beautiful, but something about them seem unnatural. So I love this knife. The D stands for D2, and that jimping stands for awesome, especially with gloves. All right, and last, but certainly not least, is a modern classic. I wonder if you can tell what it's going to be. A modern classic. It was a classic the moment it came out, and I love it so much, by one of my absolute favorite knife designers, and it is and knife makers, whoosh. Yes, it is the Spartan Harsey folder. This has a very, very firm place in this royal family. To me, this is an XM-18, making sweet, sweet love with a Sebenza, and you know, with the stylings of Bill Harsey. Just an incredible knife. Thick titanium slabs, no weight reduction to be seen anywhere. I love that they have the pocket on the inside. I hate the way the pockets for the lock bar can interfere with drawing it when it's too close to the clip. Beautiful arrow clip. This is, as you can see, just kind of the plain titanium one that I'm really drawn to. It's very sharp, and I've gotten it even sharper. That look, it's all Harsey. That giant pivot, S35VN, and after speaking with Mr. Iovito, Curtis Iovito of Spartan Blades, he asked me to send the knife in with my logo, and he had it engraved on there. Love it. I love it. I love all the work they do with engraving and anodizing on their Spartan Harsey folders, and the small one too. One thing that this has that the small one does not, that I really love, is this portion here. On the small one, it's rounded here, and for some reason, that little design feature sticks in my craw. Just purely on superficiality and looks, because that's how I do things here. So, without going on any further, this is my folding knife royal family. Started with these three, but blossomed. The idea of a royal family of knives started with these three, but blossomed out into what I think are 11 of the, you know, just greatest, stoutest, most beautiful and capable tactical hard-use knife designs out there. I've gone on too long as usual, so I hope you enjoyed this. And just look at that portrait. Look at that family portrait. It's bringing tears to my eyes with all the money I've spent. All right, thanks. Take care.